Driving in China is insane. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell, and this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. So, driving in China can get pretty wild. I'm not just talking about bad driving either, or not obeying traffic rules, although there is plenty of that. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad to live somewhere where the drivers are more courteous and sane, like New York City. Partially this is because driving has only been commonplace in China for the last 20 years. Before then, driving was more of a luxury for high-ranking party officials. Of course, under communist rule, eating 3 meals a day was also seen as a luxury back then, so driving was like a super luxury. But like I said, it's not just bad driving that plagues China. The infrastructure in China is also leading to some pretty nutty driving situations. Even more so if you're out of the big cities. Even if you like off-road mudding, it'd be nice to occasionally have some road rather than just mud. Chinese roads can be really confusing and poorly made. This is like introducing someone to Mario Kart for the first time and starting them off on Rainbow Road. So altogether, it's no surprise that the World Health Organization estimated back in 2016 that road accidents killed 700 people a day in China. And on that note, let's take a look at the top 9 craziest driving situations in China. Starting with number 9, 1 lane, 2 drivers. Here you can see 2 cars facing off each other in a narrow lane, but the lane only has space for 1 car. One of the drivers has the brilliant idea of backing up to a ditch with a single wheel dangling out to leave enough room for the second car to pass by. The driver somehow managed to not fall and, in fact, went on his merry way. No ground, no problem. To be fair, this is better than the alternative, flooring it and playing a game of chicken, and whoever is the bravest survives. Which leads us to number 8, the real off-road driving. 2 wires is all it takes. Now granted, this was just a demonstration, but here's the real deal. A Chinese driver is using just 2 logs to cross a ditch. I don't know which required more faith, the driver's ability to stick to the straight and narrow path, or the logs not breaking under the weight. This has officially made tightrope walkers seem boring to me. Gain about 2,000 pounds and be made out of metal, and then maybe I'll be impressed. Somehow he made it to the end. It looks like the driver saw the wire demonstration and thought, hold my beer, and get ready to read my last will and testament. Heights just don't seem to scare Chinese drivers. Which leads us to number 7, driving off a cliff. Certain parts of China are full of mountain roads, including ones along cliff sides. Geez, it seems safer and easier to just climb this mountain. But what happens if you have incoming traffic? What do you do in that situation? Another round of chicken and whoever is the bravest survives? Do you just keep backing up the entire way along the mountainside path? Nope, too much of a hassle. Just get really, really close and pass. Those guys were lucky. Either of them could have easily been in a situation like this, and even that was not the worst case scenario. But that's not the craziest high altitude stunt, which leads us to number 6. Austin Powers ain't got nothing on this. What happens if you want to do a U-turn in a narrow lane in the mountains? Apparently, you just turn your car around and trust you won't fall over backwards. There are at least 2 instances when this driver almost gave me a heart attack, and yet somehow he succeeded in what he set out to do. I guess it doesn't seem that scary to them, because living under the CCP, it always feels like you're on the brink of falling off a cliff. At least he was on a paved road, not like number 5, Chinese tractor pull. Even without paved roads, people are willing to go to great lengths to traverse mountains. Man, I thought I had a lot of baggage. The weight of all that luggage could easily topple the tractor, especially when navigating in very uneven terrain. These drivers definitely have a lot of patience. But not all Chinese drivers are known for their patience, which leads us to number 4, I'ma go anyway. China has plenty of experience with floods. Normally you wouldn't find cars doing much driving during a flood, but as you may have picked up over the past decade plus of me subtly hinting on this channel, a lot about China isn't normal. This driver decided to go Leroy Jenkins and drive straight through high waters. Look at that car go! Without hesitation, window wipers on, he's off. Not everybody who tries a stunt like that is so lucky though. this truck driver tried forcing his way through the water, but ended up falling into a ditch on one side. This is a guy who never played Oregon Trail. But even in clear weather and smooth driving conditions, there's no shortage of crazy driving. And that brings us to number 3, seeing red. Some drivers in China see red lights as suggestions, not mandates. This scooter driver thought it was a good idea to just cross a red light with the truck headed his way. The truck driver swerved around the scooter, but ended up tumbling over and flying out his vehicle. But on the bright side, the scooter driver got to where he was going slightly faster, and that's worth risking his life and others. That scooter driver was lucky. This one, less so. Yeah, that scooter driver is definitely going to be late to her appointment. Miraculously, she only had minor injuries. Sadly, Chinese drivers running over other vehicles and even people is way too common. I won't show you those videos, though. China makes twisted metal look like bumper cars. Aside from people going crazy, there are also people just being completely reckless. Like, really reckless. It's almost as if the CCP teaches by example that human life has little value. Interesting. And then there's distracted driving in China. And it's not just smartphone use I'm talking about. Which brings us to number 2. You were doing what while driving? You thought using your smartphone while driving was bad? How about refilling your pen ink while driving? That bus driver ended up crashing. I've heard the pen is mightier than the sword, but this is ridiculous. Could have been worse though. You could have been peeling an apple while driving, like this guy. With a knife, mind you. Just eat the skin, man. It's better than losing your skin. These guys should have stopped to do their business. Just as long as they don't suddenly stop in the middle of the road like this driver here, who stopped after missing an exit. That resulted in quite a mess for incoming traffic, where a lot of other people almost stopped breathing. And finally, number 1, I forgot. Like I said earlier, Chinese driving culture is fairly new. So it's no surprise that Chinese drivers are sometimes forgetful. Like this one, who forgot to put the cargo down before passing a highway overpass. I'd say they're not the brightest if it wasn't for this driver who forgot to turn off the high beams for incoming traffic. The blinded driver ended up hitting a pedestrian. And then there are all of the drivers who forgot to set the brakes. Maybe they're just big Limp Bizkit fans and want to keep rolling. Some even seem to forget how to use the accelerator properly. Or basic common sense for that matter. I don't think traffic signs can be changed by the whims of ordinary drivers just because they feel like it. So yeah, you take your life into your own hands when you drive in China. And that's just a taste. So the next time you're frustrated by someone who cuts you off, take a deep breath and be grateful you're not commuting via the real-world equivalent of Rainbow Road. Now, if you're outside of China, you might not be facing as much danger when you go on the road. But you're constantly facing danger when you go on the internet. Because every time you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised, unless you're taking active steps to protect yourself. And that's why no matter where you live, no matter what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN like Surfshark. Especially when you're doing things like logging into your bank account or credit card online. If you ever use shared Wi-Fi, you're in danger. Hackers can easily steal your password without you even knowing it. And when you travel, especially overseas, you might need a VPN that makes it look like you're in your home country just to log into your accounts. So it saves a huge potential hassle. And you can install it on as many devices as you want, even on your Amazon Fire TV stick. It's great if you want to make it appear like you're logged in from a different country, so you can access all the good Netflix shows that are geo-blocked. So seriously, check out Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored, and you'll get 4 extra months when you sign up. That's surfshark.com/uncensored, or use the code uncensored at checkout. The link is in the description below. And here's another video I want to show you about an incredibly based video game, Dark Souls. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.